look at it, it's a screw. You need 10 of these things, and it's a ball. And you need 14 of these things, and it's something else.
So that's it as part-time as well?
Totally. So, okay. I hate to do this, but I'm going to. Throughout a semester, whether it's this class or any other class that I teach, I always get these questions of, well, if I do A, and I do B, and I do C, will you give me the grade? The grade meaning a perfect score. And that's just not real life, okay? It never is, it never will be. If you do A, B, and C perfectly, then you ought to end up with the grade, meaning an A. But if you only do 90% of it, you ought not to just be handed the grade. What if 90% is the best effort out of a class? Does that person end up with an A minus, the 90% grade? Not on my watch. I'm constantly pushing students to try and get them to be their best. And so I'm always trying to set a higher mark. But I always kind of leave it in the control of the students as to how they measure up to that mark. And so if a student works really hard and gets a 90, and the next closest student is a 50, okay, I don't give the 90 an A and the 50 an F or a D or whatever. I will give the best in class the grade, okay? If that person is so far off the curve that it destroys a reasonable grade for the effort of the rest of the class, I'll throw that person out, they got their grade, and then I will look for a reasonable distribution to grade everybody else on. Is that clear? So you don't have to say if I do A, B, and C, do I get the grade? You have to say if I do A, B, and C perfectly or the best in class, will I get the grade? And the answer is you will. Okay? So just kind of chase that out of your mind. What we need to do is realize how the grade happens. Homework, which I don't think we've had any to this point. We may not have any at the end of this class either. Then again, we may. Homework is usually kind of, it doesn't give a curve. Everybody ends up doing 90, 95%, and so everybody gets a grade. Okay? Individual labs. Generally, all of the students perform very well in the individual lab area. And so basically everybody gets the grade. Okay. The group project in this class is worth 400 points. And we'll read it in just a second. The midterm exam is worth 150. The final presentation, 140, and the final exam, 150. What distributes the grade in this class are those last items. Your effort on the project, your effort on the midterm, your effort in the presentation, and your effort on the final exam. Each team member will receive the same grade for the presentation. The presentation score will be the sum of 50% weighted grade by your peers, and a 50% grade based on Dr. Jensen, the other faculty, the other people. We'll have industrial guests that will actually come and watch your presentations. They get to decide half your grade. So there will be a team that ends up with the best presentation. And how many points are they going to get for the best presentation? They're going to get the presentation points, okay, 140. And then what will the other teams get? Some distribution below that. The curve gets set by that top group. Okay? But everybody on the team will get that grade. Your personal group score will be based on a grade that your team gives you. So if you're a slacker, you could end up with a very small percentage of the 400 points. If you're in there carrying 15 parts, you're in there doing some topology optimization, mass properties, finite element, you're doing all of those things, then you should end up, by and large, with a good grade from your peers. We will open your CD at the end of the semester, and we will look on the CD for evidence of what Jeff did, okay, or what Josh did. We will look on the CD and say, is there at least one thing in each of these categories that Jeff did? And we will compile that and give you a grade. Okay? So there's no magic on this thing. If you do the best on the exam, get the highest grade, you set the curve. If you've done the best on the final exam, you've set the curve. Okay? Question?
Is the CD supposed to be an individual submission, or is that a group submission?
It's a group submission, and so if that report, the proposal we handed out on the final project describes in detail what goes on to that. And we will talk as we get closer to the end and asking you to put a CD together, we'll talk about the organization and everything else. So, question?
Two questions. One is the quizzes we have pretty much every week.
The quizzes?
Yep.
So are you having quizzes? Are you getting quizzes in the lab?
That's with the PGBT. There's
Oh.
part of you that have that and part of you that don't, that we're examining. And we need you to read through those lessons and complete the quiz every week, because I believe
That's the
part of
research slice of this whole thing. And though there will be either a pizza party for the ones that are doing the quiz, or there will be some kind of factoring that into your grade. And we haven't got that precisely worked out, but it will, if you don't do them, it'll hurt you. Either not fill your stomach with food, or you'll be lacking a few points at the end. Hold.
Just one other thing. When we ask you to do them, it's not something you can wait till the last week to do, because it's the intervention. And so we need you to do them as they're scheduled or ahead of schedule, so you can kind of benefit from them and we can see the difference that it makes. So please keep on track with those.
Yeah, the goal is we put together all of this material to help improve global design projects like this one. And we want to evaluate whether this material is effective or not. And that's why we have half kind of doing it and half not doing it. We believe it should have a large impact, but we don't know that until we actually go out and kind of collect the data. Yep.
And the last question is the exam, the midterm exam, is it going to get written?
Is it going to be written?
Or we have to go and do the...
So what have I done in the past? I've done written only, I've done practical only, and I've done written and practical combined. And I haven't exactly figured out what we're doing this semester. If you're on good behavior, it may just be a written. If you're on bad behavior, it may be both. If you're someplace in the middle, it may just be a practical. So, just kidding. I haven't decided which it'll be, but we'll make that decision.